Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Nargis Kasyanova, and I'm director of the program on Central Asia at the Davis Center for Russian and Eurasian Studies. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very honored and pleased to host an event with His Excellency Ambassador Khazar Ibrahim today. We will talk about the evolving security landscape of the Caspian Sea region with the ambassador. Let me first introduce the ambassador. Ambassador Ibrahim is the ambassador of the Republic of Azerbaijan to the United States, a position he has held since July 2021. Prior to this, he served as Azerbaijan's ambassador to Turkey from 2017 to 2021, and as head of the mission to NATO from 2011 to 2017. Ambassador Ibrahim has extensive experience in diplomacy, having held key roles such as Deputy Chief of Mission at the Azerbaijani Embassy in the United States from 2009 to 2011, and as spokesman for the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry from 2007 and to 2009. He has also worked on national security and NATO relations, contributing to Azerbaijan's national security concept and partnership with NATO. Ambassador Ibrahim holds two master's degrees, one in international relations from Baku State University and another one in security studies from Georgetown University, and has taught at Khazar University. So, Ambassador Ibrahim, very warm welcome to the Davis Center, and we asked you to start this conversation with remarks, sharing your thoughts on what's happening with the security environment in the Caspian Sea region. And here I'm happy to note a lucky coincidence that actually your first name means Caspian, right? That's the old name of the Caspian Caspian Sea. So without further ado, Ambassador Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much for this warm introduction. Yes, my name means Caspian Sea, and many countries around the region call it Khazar Sea. I'm very proud of it. Thank you so much for your warmth. Being a Caspian Sea does not necessarily mean that I know everything about the region. So I hope that I will be able to share what I have in my mind, and will be happy to entertain your questions. I will try to be as short as possible in my remarks. First of all, I would say that when you look at the Caspian Sea, I wouldn't go and limit myself only to the countries of the Caspian Sea. Countries which border the Caspian Sea, including Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Iran, Russia, Turkmenistan. Because I believe that Caspian Sea in itself goes well beyond. So I will cover probably a little bit further to Central Asia and also to the Caucasus. So Central Asia and Caucasus, I believe, are intrinsic parts of the Caspian Sea. What we have right now, I would depict probably in three snapshots. I believe that there is first more cohesion in the region, especially between Central Asian countries and Azerbaijan specifically. Every day, if you look at the news, you can see that there are interactions at every possible level between Central Asian countries and Azerbaijan. Politically, it happens on bilateral level, summits, etc. It's happening also on technical level. You can see a lot of interactions, which is extremely important. Sometimes it's overlooked that it's only leaders, it's only ministerial level which forges the relations. But on technical level, there are issues which makes the region more cohesive. Things like tariffs, things like fees, things like taxes, border crossings, etc., which allows the region to be more integrated. Not only bilaterally do we work with each other, also there are regional formats. Central Asia plus Azerbaijan is already informal platform. There is probably not a single meeting of Central Asian leaders where the leader of Azerbaijan is not invited. He is attending all these meetings, and again, it's happening also at different other levels. At the same time, the international formats, I would specifically mention Organization of Turkic States, which became very active in recent years. Here, of course, we add also Turkey, which is very active, not only because of its kinship, ethnic proximity, cultural and other links, but it also gives a lot of opportunities for countries of Central Asia, Azerbaijan and Turkey to be more integrated into each other. So cohesion is there. I see more cohesion, but at the same time, I would go into the second snapshot. I don't want to go into every detail and give you a lot of data. I believe there will be a lot of questions where I can dwell on these issues. But the second snapshot is definitely more capabilities and more capacities of the countries of the region. What I mean by that, historically, Caspian region has been on the Silk Road. It was connectivity, not only trade-wise, culture, ideas, knowledge was traveling back and forth. Today, we have more capacities and capabilities because the countries of the region are putting more assets on this route. In Azerbaijan, basically, if we put it in miles, like 40 miles south from Baku, there is the largest port on the Caspian Sea, Alat, which had 15 million ton capacity annually. Now it's expanding to 25 million ton. And it's not coincidence why capacity is increasing, because many countries of Central Asia, not almost, all of them are landlocked, and Uzbekistan is actually a double landlocked country. They need this port for transit of the goods and for production. The same is happening in Kazakhstan. Major ports are being constructed and expanded. On top of it, I mentioned in the beginning about the cohesion. I mentioned and underlined the technical level meetings. They help also to help in a way to make this route cheaper and faster. It's not only the mileage, as we all know, it's also the hurdles on the way of the transportation means. So we are trying to eliminate these hurdles and facilitate transportation. So therefore, we're working again on border crossings and some other issues, fees, etc. I remember when I was ambassador to Turkey before, I was talking to business people and trying to explain why this linkage between Asia and Europe is the best, shortest. But business people are very practical, and they were asking, well, how much it costs? Why should I transport through this link? And then I was giving the numbers and figures, and we see that to be competitive, you need to be cheaper, you need to be faster. And therefore, we're working together with other Central Asian countries to make it this way. In terms of capacity, and since our topic is security, it's not only transportation. Of course, transportation is part of security, connectivity is part of security. But in terms of hard security, in recent years, there are a lot of close cooperation, again, on bilateral level, but also regionally. There are annual military drills between the countries on bilateral level. My country conducts military drills with Central Asian countries, annually with Kazakhstan, with Uzbekistan, with Kyrgyzstan. But on top of it, there are also regional formats for military drills. Recently, there was actually Central Asia plus Azerbaijan exercise Exception is, of course, Turkmenistan, because it's a neutral country by its constitution, but all other countries of Central Asia and Azerbaijan together conducted these military drills. On top of it, since we're talking about security, there is strong cooperation also on defense industry. Countries are working together and also with partners outside of the region. We cannot speak about security without the issue of trust. Sometimes it's very much overlooked. Many people think if you have enough military equipment, if your forces are trained, and if you have some structures to coordinate your efforts, everything is fine. Well, trust is extremely important. Political trust, trust between people, trust between the nations. And I think there we see increase in terms of trust between the nations, people, and the leadership of the Caspian region, especially between East and West. The third snapshot where I want to draw your attention is more interest towards Caspian region, an interest by outside powers, structures for different reasons. Well, if you look at data, you can see that almost all countries of the Caspian region have the largest trading partners in China. If you look at all Caspian region countries except Russia, for all of them, basically, it's China and then Russia, or Russia, then China. Azerbaijan is the only exception right now in terms of trade partners. We're more diversified, but there are some organic reasons for that, because most of our export is oil and gas, and we have European partners where we're sending that. But our cooperation with China is also going up. European Union is getting more interested. If you look at Azerbaijan, and recently we had the visits by European Union, by neighboring countries, all leaders are visiting my country. My president had a state visit to China. European Union had summit actually in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, where all countries of Central Asia were present. United States is being involved a lot in the region. Again, reasons can be different. It can be minerals, it can be resources, it can be connectivity, it can be geopolitics. But still, if we look at the region, we see that snapshot too. So when we see the cohesion, we see increased capabilities and capacities, but we also see a lot of interests. Can we definitely say this interest will lead to some kind of development? I think it's too early to say, but I think it's very good news that for the first time, when there is more interest towards the region itself is cohesive, it has its own capabilities, and can be a partner, not just a recipient of any support. So I will stop here and will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. To continue in this vein of the kind of snapshot and big picture, if you had to pick 3 key challenges to security in the Caspian region, what would you choose?
That's a very difficult question. I would say number 1 is predictability, because security of the Caspian region or any region is not just it's not limited to the region itself. There are regional formats, then there is global framework. So what's going to happen globally, we don't know. Right now, the world is in a mess. Let's be very open. Maybe I'm using very undiplomatic language, but if we look all around the world, we can see that unfortunately, predictability is the biggest thing which we are lacking. So therefore, predictability would be number 1 thing, I believe, number 1 challenge we will all have. Well, let's put it this way. If we're having some kind of clashes, right, it's bad. But we know what's happening. We can define it. We can find the way. We can look at history. We can look at formats. We can look at tools, how to solve it. But if even you have peace, if you have some kind of stability, you believe, but it's unpredictable, then it's very difficult. I don't want to go into academic exercise here, But I think it will be good just to look into it and understand that predictability is one of the biggest challenges what we're having. So that's number one. Number two, I would say the biggest challenge is probably the ownership, I would say. So I've mentioned cohesion, which is going up, but for how long you can have ownership of your own security in the region. Look, not a single country in the region is a member of NATO. Several countries of the regions are members of CSTO. Some countries are aspiring for the membership in European Union. Does it mean that it provides security? Does it mean that there is ownership? There is no regional format which provides security. There is no Article 5 for region. If I can translate it, if we had a regional common defense or even collective security organizations. We do not. So that's a point. So ownership is another thing. How much we can rely on ourselves. Well, look, Azerbaijan and Turkey, we have Shusha Declaration, which is basically our Article 5. So Article 5, I don't mean specifically NATO because that's everybody understands. It means mutual defense. So we have it with Turkey, but others do not have between or among themselves. How we can own our security is very important. So I would say that's another challenge which we have. Number three, I would say again, it's about interests. What will be the role of the outside powers? Let me be very undiplomatic now. We all heard about Great Game, and I believe not a single country in the region loved it because that was detrimental to our national security, to our identity, to our future. And we don't want to be part of Great Game. We want to be part of, maybe it can be called Great Game, but not in terms of conflicts. We want big powers, interested countries, interested organizations to cooperate, not to confront each other in our part of the world, or the Caspian Sea. So we want to turn Caspian Sea into the area of cooperation, not of confrontation of outside powers.
Thank you very much. On the first challenge, predictability, if I can narrow it to the energy sector. We don't know what's going to happen to the global economy. We don't know what's going to happen to the demand, to the prices. What are the ways to mitigate this challenge of kind of low predictability?
Well, actually, I think energy, in fact, is probably among the more predictable. I wouldn't say most predictable, but more predictable. And I mean both ways, both in terms of fossil fuel and also in terms of renewables, and also in terms of the ways of delivery. Well, look, Azerbaijan has the ways of delivery, it's fossil fuel to European markets via Georgia, Turkey, and further to Europe. Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan, Baku-Tbilisi-Erzurum, and further through Trans-Anatolian pipeline, Trans-Adriatic pipeline. And today, again, when I was talking about Azerbaijan's trade partners, today Azerbaijan actually exports natural gas to 10 members of European Union. This is huge. So there is predictability in a way. There is demand in Europe. It's not going to subside anytime soon. And we have capacity to transfer it, and we have ways of delivery. So there we have predictability. As far as Kazakhstan or Turkmenistan is concerned, we're trying to help our partners. And for example, Kazakhstan is also transporting part of its oil via Azerbaijan's Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan through the Caspian Sea. But you're right in terms of pricing, in terms of global demand, in terms of decisions by OPEC, OPEC Plus, and some other formats. Again, energy market is never the most predictable, but I think in terms of our relations, we have more predictability than non-predictability because we are not amongst the major energy producing countries in the world. Our customers are defined. We know who they are. So we don't need to look above or beyond the horizon in order to search for the unpredictability, which we will definitely find in that way. But at the same time, we're also working, and actually not only Azerbaijan, but many countries in the region on renewables. I will talk about Azerbaijan. Our only wind capacity is 20 times more than we can ever consume. It's basically new revolution. What we had late 19th, early 20th century when Azerbaijan was major oil producer in the world, now we're becoming one of the major renewable producers in the world. So imagine 20 times more than you can ever consume. It means that most of it will be exported. And we're already working with our partners. We're working with Central Asian countries also to take their resources to transfer to Europe. And also we're working with regional and European partners in order to have the ways of delivery. We already have an agreement with Georgia, Romania, Hungary, and now Bulgaria to build the cable under the Black Sea, which is multi-billion-dollar project and which will take right now 100% of Azerbaijan wind energy into the European market. That gives us more predictability. So there will be more energy resources transferred to European markets. On top of it, we'll also use renewables for domestic consumption. That means that it will free capacity for our natural gas. So it means that extra volumes we will send also to Europe. And in fact, every year we have increased in terms of our natural gas exports to European Union. And in terms of our MOU, which we signed with the European Union several years ago, that capacity will double by 2027.
Speaking of that connection with Europe and with the European Union, my understanding was that Azerbaijan wants more investments, and so there is a bit of a catch-22 situation that kind of to supply more to Europe, you need more European investments, and Europeans kind of want to make sure that there is the supply, right, to invest. Well, we know that European High Commissioner Kaja Kallas was in Azerbaijan last month, and I'm sure there were discussions on these issues as well. Do we know anything kind of about progress on this issue?
It's inevitable. That will be my clear answer. The thing is that when you're talking about energy business, it's business. You don't need to politicize that. You don't need to talk about some other things but business. And business is very simple. Supply, demand, pricing, that's it. And there is demand, there is supply, but if you need more supply, of course, there should be investment in terms of to have this supply. Natural gas business within the framework of energy business is very peculiar one. If for others you can have storage things, some other things, here if you take it out, you need to sell it immediately. So it's not only investment into the production, but it's also commitment. It's also commitment you're going to buy that volume. Otherwise, it does not make sense. It's very risky. It's very unpredictable to invest so much and take this natural gas out. So therefore, yes, we want investment from those who also want to buy it. So if you commit yourself, you should also invest in that. And I am optimistic. I don't think that we should think about any serious hurdles on that. At the end of the day, European Union is a serious organization. At the end of the day, European Union needs energy resources. At the end of the day, European Union is still growing market, and therefore I believe that there will be some kind of solution.
Well, and natural gas plays an important role as a sort of bridge transition as well. So,
and that's another point. Yeah, just a couple of seconds. Many people completely ignore. Even within European Union, there was a lot of deliberations recently. Well, it's all renewables. We can do that. Now everybody understands that you cannot just do it immediately. We all want cleaner world. We all want better environment. But in order to have your economy running and your people not freezing, you need to have a transition fuel. And you're absolutely right. Natural gas is probably the best and cleanest among all others.
But of course, it has its own set of problems as a transition
Everything else, yes.
Yeah. Well, since we started talking about the transition, I wanted to ask you a question related to renewables. You said that Azerbaijan has this vast potential with wind energy. Wind farms, they require a lot of water, right? And water is a problem, right, in our region. In this regard, I wanted to ask you actually about the question about the Caspian Sea, the problem of shallowing of the Caspian Sea, how big a concern it is for Azerbaijan, and what are kind of what are possible solutions. There was a report about the new idea of building a water tunnel connecting the Caspian Sea and the Black Sea. You just mentioned the underwater cables, right, and the connection of the kind of this energy cable connecting Azerbaijan with Europe. But now maybe there will be this water tunnel. Well, it's an interesting idea for sure. If you can comment on the problem of the kind of water shortage, water shallowing of the Caspian Sea, and kind of what's planned in Azerbaijan in this regard.
First, I will give you a colloquial answer. Since my name is Caspian, literally, and I was born literally by the sea. My grandfather's house is right on the shore of the Caspian Sea, so waves usually slap the windows of his house. I heard from my grandfather, my great-grandfather, that in fact, that's colloquial answer, right? I need to underline it again. That there is a cycle basically. So every 30, 25 years, they witnessed Caspian Sea going way back. And even when I was a kid, I remember we had very broad beaches. And before going to the sea, you had to cross several lines of sand. Now, actually, Caspian Sea is much closer and larger. In fact, what I saw in my childhood. Yes, my late grandfather, great grandfather, and they were saying there were always some kind of movements, and they believe they were. And also, I read when I was little that in fact that connection with the ocean exists. So that's one of the theories of going back and forth. So that's colloquial answer. Now, more diplomatic answer, more professional answer. It is a problem. It is an issue. It's not just environmental issue. It's also economic issue. It affects our ports and everything. We raise these issues and we work all together. There is cooperation on that among all 5 littoral states of the Caspian Sea, but also we work bilaterally. For example, we all know that the major artery for Caspian Sea is River Volga, and drying up of Volga and less water incoming from Volga is a big issue for the Caspian Sea. So therefore, we're working a lot with Russia because Volga solely goes through the territory of Russia. So working with Russia on that issue. We're also working with some other countries. For example, Some rivers are coming not from the littoral states on the western side. So working with them too, with Georgia, with Turkey, we're talking with them too. So we believe that within this cooperation, we will be able to find some kind of solution, scientific, practical solution to shallowing of the Caspian Sea. But on top of it, of course, that affects not only economy, it's also environment, it's fishery, it's some other things. So we do not limit ourselves just to talk about water itself, but also biodiversity in the Caspian Sea. For example, sturgeon. So there is now ban on hunting of sturgeon in the Caspian Sea. It's only farm raised right now because we want to protect the Caspian Sea.
But the infrastructure will be affected, right? If the models are right, and there will be
Right.
a considerable shallowing of the.
It might affect. I don't think that it's the issue of tomorrow. Maybe the issue of day after tomorrow. So therefore, we want to start now, today, in order not to leave it for tomorrow when the issue is already there. Yes, it might. Of course, every change on the level can affect. I mean, Harvard University is in Boston, right? I mean, Boston is one of the cities probably among the 15 cities in the United States, which has another issue, which actually is submerging. So water is rising. So again, it might affect also the ports in Boston, in some other places too. So wherever you have this fluctuation in everything always has an impact. So that's absolutely right what you said. We need to mitigate it, and to mitigate, you need to cooperate. You should find some creative solutions. I don't know. Maybe our scientists will find some creative solution. Not to have these issues anytime in the future.
Oh, probably it's too late just to mitigate, right? So it should be mitigation and adaptation.
Well, absolutely, adaptation.
Yeah, some cities already started kind of working on that. Like Singapore has a like housing program, building buildings that are higher, like 1 meter higher than they should be for today.
Yeah, you adapt not only in terms of protecting yourself, but also it impacts other areas. For example, we were thinking a lot about desalination, right? But if you have less water, then probably desalination becomes not as much of priority. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's also adaptation.
And there are frameworks, as you mentioned, like regional Caspian framework.
Yes, we're working and talking with littoral states, but also we're cooperating with countries which have technologies, which have experience. Some European countries. We're talking about that, and also in terms of water management, we have various close dialogue, for example, with the state of Israel, and it's important. We should learn from the best in terms of mitigating, adapting, or anything else.
I have a bunch of questions, but let me open the floor to our patient audience members. The first question is, how does Turkmenistan's policy of neutrality influence its relations with other Caspian coastal states? So maybe you focus on Azerbaijan-Turkmenistan relation.
Yeah, it makes it neutral. So that's a short answer. But at the same time, yeah, we have very close cooperation with Turkmenistan, bilaterally, also within different formats. Turkmenistan is not any, I wouldn't say very foreign country for us. So we have cultural, linguistic, ethnic closeness with Turkmenistan. So yes, we do not have any defense cooperation or security cooperation big time, of course, because of Turkmenistan's neutrality, but it does not prevent us from expanding in every other area. So we're working on anything possible, excluding the status of neutrality for Turkmenistan.
How about technical cooperation that you mentioned at the beginning? How much technical cooperation take?
There is technical cooperation. When I was in Turkey, for example, I remember we had a meeting of ministers of energy in Turkey, specifically working, and there was actually a memorandum of understanding adopted, a trilateral one, about dealing with some technical issues as well. So and also even on lower level, cooperation is there because again we are neighbors, we have borders, we have sea borders, and we need to work technically to make the transit and transportation smoother. But on top of it, of course, Turkmenistan-Azerbaijan relations are not limited just to Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan. For example, countries like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan also need Turkmenistan in terms of the transport. So it's not only technical cooperation between Azerbaijan and Turkmenistan, but also between Turkmenistan and other countries of Central Asia to allow this larger and longer connectivity.
Thank you. Next is the question from Ambassador Hoagland. The current administration in Washington often looks at diplomatic relations in new ways. Some say that US embassies are less active than in the past, keeping their heads down, quote unquote. How do you see the current role of the United States in the Caspian region? And if I can piggyback, what's happening with the US support for the Middle Corridor?
Well, there is interest. We're hearing that from the US diplomats and administration. I'm sure they're listening to Ambassador Hoagland and some other ambassadors who have deep knowledge and practical experience in the region. At the same time, I think it's too early to say what will happen. Will there be any practical advancements? What we know that Middle Corridor will happen. There is no way that it will not. So this connectivity, well, it is happening already. It's expanding, it's getting smoother, and etc. But what will be the role of the United States? That's a big question. We're hearing from the new administration, yes, they're very much interested, but at the same time, again, maybe going back to what Ambassador mentioned in the beginning about the embassies, I don't know how embassies navigate today in these circumstances. Many countries in the region do not have even ambassadors from the United States right now, which matters, right? At the same time, there are no key officials in, for example, Department of State, in some Department of Defense, and some others who have to deal with our regions and make or help to make the decisions about Middle Corridor and others. So again, we hear the interest, but how practically it will evolve, we don't know, because again, we do not have key people who can shape these decisions.
Okay. How is Azerbaijan navigating its relationships with both Russia and the West amid growing geopolitical tensions in the Caspian region? Do you think energy sustainability might be affected due to arousal of tensions between two important partner countries for Azerbaijan, such as Iran and Israel? That's the next question from a dear colleague.
That's exactly what we want to avoid, or rather help to avoid. We believe that our region, as I mentioned in the beginning, should be a region of peace and cooperation, not the region of rivalry and confrontation. So the better relations between United States and Russia are, the better relations between all other regional countries are, or the less conflicts we have between or among regional countries and countries outside of the region, the better it is for the region. I mean, I'll give you just one example. If you look at the history of the larger Caspian region, probably the best, smoothest, most prosperous time was during Silk Road. There were less wars, there was more cooperation, there was more trade. So that's what we want. If there is more trade, more economic relations between larger powers, superpowers, the better it is for us. On the contrary, when you have confrontations, then you're definitely on the fault lines, and we don't want to be over there. How we navigate that? We're always ready to help. I remember a decade ago when Russian and American top military wanted to meet, they were coming to Baku and they were meeting and in order to cool down the tension. The same was happening among other countries too, which have tensions, which is happening right now too. And we're ready to offer our help anytime and any way we can in order, again, to mitigate these problems, these confrontations. But again, not everything depends on us. Not everything depends on us. We keep good relations with all of our neighbors. We keep good relations with the United States and other outside big players. But at the same time, as I mentioned in the beginning, we have so many problems globally. They might, as I remember, Madeleine Albright during one of her classes told us, she said that many believe that diplomacy is like a chess, but in chess you have rules, you know how pieces move. Rather, diplomacy and global relations are like the game of billiard or snooker or pool, you name it differently. When when one ball bounces another, they all go to different directions. So what will happen in one part of the world can really affect us and our relations with regional powers. It's very difficult to say. So that's why predictability is the major thing for us.
Can you say a couple of words about the north-south corridor and the pipeline project to connect, kind of to bring Russian gas to Iran? How how possible is that?
Well, I don't know about the gas pipeline, but about the north-south, yes, we're working on it, and it's more connectivity, it's more transportation. Yes, and there is cooperation among Russia, Azerbaijan, and Iran, and we do believe that north-south and at the same time east-west should be complementary. Never one route crossing another can be separated. They will always reinforce each other. And we believe that conflicts will be over one day. And then it could be too late to look for transit capacities and opportunities. We should start working right now. And that's what we are doing, and working with every single regional entity in order to provide opportunities for connectivity. And north-south is one of them. We're working on it. It's also moving on quite successfully.
You served as Azerbaijan's ambassador to NATO. What is the current state of Azerbaijan's cooperation with NATO?
We are very strong partners of NATO. When I was there, we had troops in Afghanistan. Then there was ISAF operation of NATO. Then resolute support. We provided troops. In fact, Azerbaijani troops were the last to leave Kabul International Airport. There were 4 countries. 3 of them were NATO members. It was United States, United Kingdom, Turkey, and the only NATO partner was Azerbaijan, which stayed there till the very last day. That shows our capabilities. That shows our commitment to our partnership. When we are partners with somebody, we always stay till the end. So we had cooperation in that field. We had cooperation in many other fields. For example, right now we're facing a lot of issues with landmines in Azerbaijan, in formerly occupied lands, right? We have to clean them up. When I was at NATO, our mine agency, ANAMA, was working very closely with NATO and its structure. Then it was called NAMSA, now it's NSPA, which was helping to build on the capacities of our mine agency. And it helps not only us to clean up formerly occupied territories and now liberated territories, but also help other countries in terms of mine clearance. For example, we helped a lot Afghanistan, even some Balkan countries got some help from us. So our cooperation with NATO, many people think NATO is all about collective defense. There is so much, even public diplomacy is there. We had very strong public diplomacy relations with with NATO. We were chairing ad hoc working group, the only partner country which was chairing ad hoc working group on energy infrastructure security. So you were asking about energy security. So we continue. We are partners with NATO. We still have the frameworks defined in 94, 97, Partnership for Peace, Euro-Atlantic Partnership Council, and all these formats. And we continue working on that, and we see a lot of benefits.
Well, I'm from Kazakhstan, another oil and gas producing country, primarily oil. And we've been trying to diversify the economy like over the past decades. So what is, and it's not easy, obviously. What is Azerbaijan doing in this regard? What's the plan? Is it possible to diversify?
Impossible is nothing. We're working on that, and actually we already see results. I really love following our Minister of Economy, who literally tweets every week or month about the increased share of non-energy share in our GDP or in revenues going into our budget, which are great news. So the role of oil and gas is getting less. On top of it, energy is also diversified. We talked about renewables, so we're having good success. On top of it, we have different plans in terms of developing other sectors of our economy. That's where we see diversification as the most effective. So, for example, high technologies is one of the areas, and we're working extensively on that. We're working on agriculture and tourism. That's another area. So, for example, Kazakhstan is very friendly and brotherly nation to us. But Azerbaijan has always been famous for many countries in the region for its agricultural products. And in fact, after oil and gas, everybody will be surprised to see that the third commodity which brings most revenues to our budget is actually famous tomatoes from Baku. Hazelnuts is another one. So we have worked, and in fact, on hazelnut, there is huge increase, and it's one of the strategic commodities to develop. So on agriculture, we're also working very much. Tourism. We have a lot of influx of tourists in Azerbaijan, and share of tourism in our GDP is also increasing. But on top of it, the one major thing which we believe can help us to have sustainable diversification, which is extremely important, is our cadre. It's our people. It's our next generation. So therefore, like you having in Kazakhstan, correct me if I'm wrong in pronouncing, is Balashak, the program. I don't know, maybe you yourself went through that. I don't know, but no. So I also didn't go through Azerbaijani government programs, but we're having special scholarship program for the brightest Azerbaijani if they get accepted to the top schools. And, not like me, in my case, I made a big mistake studying political science, which is not real science. But if you're doing engineering, software, mathematics, like my son and others, government supports you. Without these people, it will be very difficult to have diversification. So my president specifically put this project, this program, and in fact, it even starts with a sentence which I think is incredible, which says the major goal of this program to support our youth is to turn black gold into human capacity, and black gold is oil, of course. So training our best and young people is the most important thing for sustainable diversification.
Well, yes, well, I fully agree. I believe in education. That's why I'm in the educational sector. But in the case of Kazakhstan, many of the Bolashak recipients then cannot kind of fit in the system, cannot kind of find their place in the system. The system can be quite rigid, right, in letting these new people with different sets of values and ideas to kind of successfully work. But that's a kind of a side note. Speaking to continue this theme of diversification, we have a question about digital transformation. Some of the factors that were mentioned, energy, geographic centrality, regional integration, would also make Baku an interesting place to host data centers and be an east-west hub for Central Asia's growing digital economy. So if you can comment on that. And comment on that, and then I'll ask the...
Well, yes, on that we have interest not only from the countries of Central Asia, but we're having interest also from major global companies in terms of data centers, because data centers, they're very different animal. For data centers, you need not only political will, you need knowledge, and most knowledge is, of course, in private sector. That's one. Two, for that, you need a lot of energy, right? Data centers are the most energy consuming things, and everybody thinking about that. And well, we have an advantage of having a lot of it, and on top of it, these renewables coming right from the Caspian Sea, because most of our wind is actually offshore. It's right on the Caspian Sea. So it's very natural to think about it. But on top of it, since you mentioned also Kazakhstan, we're cooperating with Kazakhstan also on fiber optic cable under the Caspian Sea that can also help to have more digitalization, not only of Azerbaijan's economy, but the economies of the region.
And these are the wind farms, offshore wind farms. These are European companies, Chinese companies?
We have companies from all around the world. We actually made a deliberate decision. We said, well, look, we as a country, as a government, we are providing infrastructure, right? What you need grids, you need transfer points, right? We provide that as a country. We provide legislation, laws, everything. But we decided to test and see how much interest we can draw. So we decided not to invest ourselves directly into this potential. And what happened, now we have a huge line of companies from all around the world. 25% of that potential is already taken by companies starting from Australia, going to Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, some European countries. So from all around the world, major companies are involved. And again, that was a good model, we believe, when we decided to test the interest, and these companies never come to the empty field, right? They saw this potential because we had feasibility by Italian company. And when they discovered this huge potential, everybody jumped in. And right now, actually, again, it's not like we are going and asking somebody. We're having a huge line of companies from all around the world trying to take extra capacities we have.
And these are intergovernment agreements, or?
Yes, they're intergovernment agreements, but also companies also sign agreements. Sometimes it's happening as joint venture also with our companies. So, for example, our SOCAR, which is the abbreviation was really literally State Oil Company, but now it's also a lot into renewables. So it's also signing contracts with international counterparts.
Okay, and my last question, you are Azerbaijan's ambassador to the United States. What are the kind of most promising avenues for Azerbaijan-US cooperation nowadays? What's the package maybe of deals, partnership kind of projects that you're offering to the Trump administration?
We're not offering anything to anybody. including United States. We are not that kind of country which comes and tries to offer or sell itself. We're a very proud nation. We're a very capable nation. We're perfectly fine. And if we want to work with somebody, we want to work as partners. We're not coming and asking for any aid like some do. I don't want to mention them. It will be very undiplomatic. We want to be partners, and we already proved it in the last 30 years. When we worked on energy, yes, first it was United States supporting us, but then we became real partners. And even right now, our, for example, state oil company, together with major American companies, is investing globally. So we are doing that. So the one very important thing is we're not offering ourselves, we're offering cooperation. And sky is the limit in every field. We do have capabilities in some areas. United States has capabilities in every area. So wherever we can find common ground, we can do that. But if you look historically, for example, energy was the big one. Security was a big one. So our troops became very interoperable with the United States and NATO. I would say in general, Azerbaijan's position, Azerbaijan's role as a bridge was another thing. Since you can rarely find many countries, many places where you have so much, I don't like the word tolerance, but so much mix of different cultures, ethnicities, no clashes, respect to each other. So, and the same for Kazakhstan, for example. So we both are the bridge, and at the same time, the place where United States can talk with others without any restrictions. But again, we are ready to work with the United States in every field. Education, I believe, is probably one of the most important. I'm very proud of our students, including Harvard. Thank you very much for all your efforts to build a brighter future for Azerbaijan. And every time when I'm visiting different cities, I see more and more students, I see more and more faculty. Every day, if you look at my schedule, I have meetings with our students, or students from the United States, or faculty from the United States who are engaged in cooperation. Because I believe this is the backbone of the relations. Without it, it will be very difficult to have developments in other areas.
But still, if you can give a little bit more detail, which areas would you sort of flag to American companies and say, look, there are great opportunities for you here in Azerbaijan?
Well, technology, of course, technology, agriculture, or ag tech at the same time. Of course, because again, you mentioned data centers, right? I mean, and again, we're having huge potential. We have cadre, we have young, smart people. Every day, if you look, I'm very proud to see our students, sometimes even high school students, winning all these Olympiads all around the world. Just yesterday, I was reading about the big win by one group of Azerbaijanis that they invented something extraordinary, and they were acknowledged in Europe. So these kind of things are existing, and also we have all the legislation. We have all the background where we worked with international companies. So again, we have predictability. We're a reliable partner. It's not like untapped potential. When you're coming to the country, you don't know what to expect from legislation, from political system, from everything else. So technology and agriculture, I would say, are major areas. And actually, we are having interest. But it's not like we want or expect only US administration to come with that. Companies are free to do that, and they're already doing it.
Okay, thank you very much. We are at an hour, so let me thank you, Ambassador, for being with us and sharing your insights and knowledge. And let me thank the audience for tuning in, both here in this Zoom webinar, and also the ones who watch us on YouTube.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Always at your disposal. And anybody who wants to ask questions, we're always ready for that. Thank you so much.